Hello, hello, hello again. I have a lot of time today. So that means I have a lot of time to do a lot of broadcasting. I did a broadcast in Boston prior to my coming to Providence. I just did one broadcast and now I'm working on another one. It's always when I have the opportunity to do a lot of talking, I never have anything to talk about. And that means I have to delve deep into my mind to find something to talk about. All of my broadcasts are impromptu. I look at myself as I do my recording. I guess it would seem to my listening audience that sometimes I may be reading, but I'm never reading. Everything that I say just comes at the moment. And the thing is, even though I notice how my eyes move on at the camera, it looks like maybe that I'm reading. Maybe it's just that, that's the way my eyes are. But everything is impromptu. And that means that's why sometimes I may stumble or rest because everything is just coming instantaneous. And that's when I like to broadcast. I think it's more natural that way. I want to further discuss something because I have time and I have the energy. I think I would like to uh, get back into the discussion of the angels. I know, of course, I have a discussion due that deals with Shakespeare and the Holy Bible, but I think I can do that off and on. At this point in time, I would like to talk about the angels of God. My conception, okay, many of us were brought up thinking, especially if we were brought up in the U.S. or any basically European Christian nation, or even in Africa. I spent 10 years in Africa. I know I was surprised. They have Santa Claus in Africa, in Kenya. They celebrate Christmas the same way we celebrate Christmas. They even have a Santa Claus, and they talk about snow. So that only shows you the power of colonialism. And I may go in that direction since that came up. In fact, I think I want to talk about colonialism and Africa. I spent 10 years in Africa. That was as an adult. I mean, that was as an older man. I retired. Yeah, I retired. I took an early retirement in 20, well, I know 10 years ago, that would be 2012. And I took an early retirement. And when I retired, I chose to go to Kenya. I had studied in Africa um, earlier in Nigeria, and I loved Africa. People were very kind to me there. So when I became adult, I was free. Even though my daughter doesn't love me, she just got her PhD, and she went to Smith. Then she went to Purdue, and then, as I understand it, she's doing a PhD here. So the thing is, I, me and my first wife were divorced. My daughter's grown, so I said when I retired, I would go back to Africa, and I did. So I went back to Africa, and I decided I would go to Kenya. And the thing is, one thing that we African Americans, we are sort of, I guess, naive or whatever. We, if we don't study history, then we are put in the dark. We have to remember that when we were conquered, when the African nations were destroyed, just to give you an idea what I'm talking about, you would have a country like an island like Portugal, no bigger than Florida. The Portuguese went into Africa and controlled lands like uh, Angola and several other countries. In other words, these guys from the north, these guys from uh, um, Portugal, which was an island country, small country, went into Africa and kicked ass and took over land multiple times the size they were. The English, they went into West Africa, took Nigeria, kicked those Africans' ass, and ruled a continent multiple times bigger than the little countries they came from. And they kicked those Africans' asses so bad that even the Africans considered them gods. And they're afraid of them. Look at South Africa. These guys from the north came and kicked ass. I mean, they were kicking those Africans' ass. They were beating them to death and took all that land. And even today, and the neo-colonial mind of the people is still there. So you go to Africa, and they're saying the same things they said in Alabama. They're doing the same things. The black people. It's a long, long story. I spent 10 years in Africa. Most of the time was in Kenya. I had studied at University of Ibadan in Nigeria when I was very young. But many of us African Americans, we're very naive. We have to study colonialism in order to understand the African. Just as we were enslaved, so were the Africans. It was all based on the color scheme. That this color scheme started with a Portuguese guy. And then all of a sudden they started making rules about the color of a man's skin. And so Africa got burned. Now the colonialists only ruled Africa for maybe about 100 years. They enslaved African people here in the Americas and in South America. We were enslaved 400 years by the Europeans, the white Europeans. And during that period of colonialism and during that period of slavery, they really totally messed up our minds. Okay, deservingly. Deservingly. I did earlier, when I first started my YouTube station, I talked about me in Africa and the homosexuals, and I didn't want to talk about this anymore. But homosexuality is big in Africa. It was big in Kenya. The same type of things that I go through in the shower room at the YMCA in Boston with homosexuals is the same thing that I went through with the homosexuals in Kenya when I go to the gym. So the homosexuality is widespread in Africa. Yeah, they're doing it to each other. But the thing is, we have to we have to ask ourselves, why was Africa defeated? Why were black people for 400 years in this country enslaved? And it goes back to another premise that I had before. That premise was that it was divine. Today, you can go to Kenya and they can a group of people can say that you are a witch. Today, 2023, you can go right into Tanzania. You can go right into an East African country, and your community, people in your community can claim that you are a witch today, and they will burn you alive, and the children will watch. So the things I'm just saying, why did these things happen to us as a people? Why did God bring his wrath on African people, on my ancestors? And I have to, before I go any further with my YouTube station, Musa Kona and Revelations, I must deal with this issue. Because it has always plagued me, and it has always sent me into the library trying to study. Okay, cannibalism, marrying your sister, incest, the type of, look, My, my skin is black. My hair is African. I'm an African. But brothers, look what we have done to our own people in our own land. Not one single soul in Africa should starve. No one should starve in Africa. It's the food that's provided there. But it's some ignorant, very ignorant people and wicked people in Africa. Why do you think God brought his wrath on us? Bringing us, snatching us off the continent for 400 years, whipping our behinds. And then you have a country like Portugal that could rule a country like Angola. You had a small country like Britain that could rule a country like Nigeria. Not only Nigeria, Ghana, and several others. What were you doing, Africa? What were you doing for God to bring his wrath on you? Why did God bring this wrath on you? This is Musa Matt Meacham Jr. Muhammad signing off. I will get back to you when I'm motivated. Musa Matt Meacham Jr. Musa Corner and Revelations signing off for today.